Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. What's the best way to make a movie about Kobe Bryant? Somebody's got an idea about that. Plus, the 2K ratings are out for this year. Did they do the Lakers justice? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Andy, you might get it through Apple, iTunes, like that's where you can subscribe, or Spotify, great way to get your podcasts there. You might be one of the 36,000 subscribers, Andy, watching through YouTube on the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel, talking to us, talking to each other, leaving questions, leaving comments, please, especially at this time of year. It is a great time to do viewer and listener comments. We always appreciate those mailbag type stuff. So plenty to get into today, actually, and we are going to talk about this Kobe movie that is apparently in the works. We finally, Andy, found a LeBron workout video that absolutely nobody is going to believe means LeBron is going to another team. And a couple other things we want to get into today. But first, we do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season right around the corner. Visit FanDuel, visit the FanDuel app today to start planning your futures bets now. So we'll get to the Kobe stuff. We'll get to the LeBron stuff in a moment. But Andy, it is, if nothing else, not NBA fans' favorite day of the year, but gamers love this day when the 2K rankings come out, both for the Lakers and then around the league. I always find this interesting to see if like the guys making the games kind of agree with the rest of us about how good teams and players are.
Well, to begin, first of all, we should clarify some of these numbers have been verified officially by 2K, released by 2K. Some of these come from a site that seem to be pretty looped into the 2K world and gets acknowledged by folks who pay attention to this stuff. Neither Brian and I are gamers, so we cannot say with 100% certainty that all of this is accurate, but I will say, or at least accurate in terms of what the actual ratings are, not accurate in terms of how the season will play out or the quality of the Lakers.
Ronnie got a 96. That sounds about right, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Summer League, big improvement.
Yeah, it's actually higher than LeBron, but they really believe in a second-year bounce. But the Lakers, according to this site, they are considered a tier 1 team. The 2K people consider them tier 1, which is as high as tiers go. They are 84 overall as a rating, and that rating comes with the average of their top 8 player scores. They are considered a team that is 88 with inside and outside scoring. Athleticism, which frankly kind of surprised me. Thank you, Deandre Ayton, for bringing yourself in there and helping bump up things a little bit. Maybe even Jake LaRavia. Playmaking at an 85, and potential. I liked this. Potential was considered an 87, like in terms of their overall possible upside. Here's where, if nothing else, 2K, their concerns seem to align with the concerns of most people, including, frankly, you and me. The defensive end, interior defense, defense 66, rebounding 59, and then intangibles only at a 66. Apparently, they have not heard of a guy named Jake LaRavia. I thought he was brought in to be that glue guy, the super glue guy for the Lakers.
I have to admit, like I saw those numbers and I said to myself, God, what would the rebounding rating have been without Ayton? Like if they'd gone, like it would have been like just a 6, not a 66, just 6. And then and it's hard to argue, if you look at the player weaknesses and the team weaknesses, it does kind of match with what we're saying. You can put the players back up. I mean, it kind of matches with what most of us think. And you look at the roster. I believe in NBA 2K, anything above 85 is considered like high level, and like the 90 and above guys are kind of elite. The Lakers have Luka at a 95 and LeBron at a 94.
Those are confirmed, by the way. Those are absolutely confirmed.
Reaves at an 85, and then Ayton and Rui behind them in the 80s. I think that kind of makes sense. Like, you look at the Lakers roster and the balance for this year in terms of quality from 1 through 9 ought to be a little bit better. I'm not going to say it's on the same level as, I think Denver's got a little more depth. If the Clippers stay healthy, they might have a little more depth. The Thunder certainly have more depth. But if the Lakers stay healthy, they ought to have more of it this year than last, because Ayton, by the end of last year, Ayton gives them a real center. Marcus Smart gives them a real defender in the backcourt. You still have Rui. You still have Vanderbilt, who maybe won't be asked to do things beyond what he's capable of, like most capable of.
Or is just going to get a boost from showing up to a camp healthy, having rehabbed nothing, and being able to start with the rest of the team to open a season. Like that in and of itself, I think could be really helpful.
It can definitely make a difference. And so like you look at some of these things, and I think, there are question marks. A guy like Dalton Connect, is he going to be able to break into the rotation? They have Dalton that ranked as 77, which means they didn't see him play in the summer league. What is Jake LaRavia going to do? How much can he replace what Dorian Finney-Smith brought to the team last year? Who is, this is a real basketball concern, not for people doing whatever it's called, like where you play the season, like the Dynasty League or whatever on 2K. Like, can they find a viable backup center from night to night between Jackson Hayes or Maxi Kleber, or those nights where you feel like you got to play small, or it suits the opponent to play small? But what can they do behind DeAndre Ayton to make things work? Like, there are plenty of questions about this team, but using 2K ratings as a shorthand, which is not a terrible thing to do. It's like looking at PER. It's like you don't use it as a Bible, but it's shorthand. It feels all right. Like, I feel like Rui has ascended into a place where people recognize what his strengths are. And there aren't a lot of teams that have two guys at 95 and 94, or two guys, if you're expanding beyond it, Andy, who are top 5 and 10 in the NBA.
Yeah, the Lakers have, I looked at what is, again, possibly unofficial, but from this site, the top 100 players, and the Lakers have two guys, like you said, in the top 10. They've got Luka listed as 4th with that 95. He's tied with Anthony Edwards. And then LeBron at 7th, tied with Steph, Jason Tatum, and Wembanyama. Austin comes in at 49th. So they've got 3 guys in the 2K world in the top 50 in the league. And a lot, like we've talked about with Austin before, a lot of this starts turning into tiers and specific skill sets, what you need on a team. Like, for example, Desmond Bane, who I think his 2K rating is roughly the same as Austin's. If you look at most of these ratings around the league, or like the Ringer and ESPN, when they rank players, most of them have Desmond and Austin at essentially the same number, same tier. It can come down to what you need. Like for the Lakers, as an example, I would rather have Desmond Bane. Like, I think Desmond Bane would fill more needs for the Lakers, particularly built around Luka,
better defender
than Austin. Yeah, he's a better defender. He's a better shooter. I mean, he's an elite shooter, and he can still score at a pretty high clip. Like, I personally think he's a little bit better than Austin, but I understand where you would think they're comparable. There are other teams that, frankly, which might even include the team Desmond Bane currently plays for, the Magic, that you could argue actually need Austin more than Desmond. So it depends a lot in terms of the roster construction.
And I don't know how much these ratings get into things like health, because the one area that Austin is clearly superior, or has been over the last couple of years, to Bane is availability. Bane has hurt a lot. He's missed a lot of games over the last few years. And so that makes a huge difference too. But like, when you look at The Bane example is interesting. I was listening to, I think it was Kevin O'Connor and Waz on Kevin's podcast the other day, and Waz was talking about Wazzy Lambre was talking about Bane in Orlando replacing essentially KCP, and we all love KCP in LA, but Bane is an upgrade. Like when you think about what teams are, you can look at a player like Bane and say, oh, he's not elite. He gets hurt, this, that, whatever. Pick your criticism. But you also have to think about when you're elevating a team like Orlando, who is he going to get the minutes of? And Bane at this point is a much better player than KCP. There's just no way around it. The same thing is happening with the Lakers. It's not that DeAndre Ayton isn't a flawed player. He is. But who is he replacing from last year's post-deadline rotation? He's replacing Jackson Hayes.
You mean two-way interior scorer Jackson Hayes, according to this description? Which...
Yeah, I don't pay a lot of no. Those guys, no. So like, whose minutes is he going to get? You're replacing, 20 minutes a night of Jackson Hayes with probably 28 or 29 minutes of DeAndre Ayton. That is a massive upgrade. You're replacing the defensive alignments with no real backcourt guy with Marcus Smart. That makes a big deal, even if Smart isn't the DPOY guy he was a couple of years ago. We'll wrap this up if you want. Any final thoughts on it? Plus, Andy, what is the best way to make a movie about Kobe Bryant? It is a challenging answer. We'll get to that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call, that is money left on the table. Like, when is the last time you had a service emergency and the first person didn't answer and you just sat around waiting? You don't do that. You call someone else. That's why you need Open Phone, the #1 phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications, all through an app on your phone or computer. And I love that you don't need two phones. With Open Phone, you can manage business calls and texts all from one app, whether you're at the desk or on the go. And the shared inbox allows your team to jump into any conversation without missing a beat. The AI agent for Open Phone handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, captures leads, so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba. And if you're switching to from another service, Open Phone will even port your existing numbers at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Anything you wanted to add to the discourse on 2K ratings, Andy, before we go on?
That, I mean, again, all of this will play out on the court, but if you take this stuff very seriously, there are going to be Laker fans concerned that Dalton Connect is one number higher than Jake LaRavia, and that also will be convinced they did not see Summer League if Dalton Connect is, I believe, 9 points higher, 9 numbers higher than Bronny James.
I'll be honest with you.
Because it looked the opposite in Summer League. Summer League's just Summer League, but if you went off Summer League alone, Bronny would be rated higher.
I bet Jake LaRavia looks at that and goes, they got that guy rated above me? I mean, it is funny. Like, players.
One of them is a Lemon Daddy spokesperson, and the other's not. By the way, and if you're in LA, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm calling this right now. Jake LaRavia will be the next Lakers Lemon Daddy spokesperson because A, he shares an agent with Austin Reaves, and Austin is a Lemon Daddy guy, and B, I'll just say it, they seem to like white Lakers because it's been Austin, it's been Dalton. I'm just calling it Jake LaRavia is next.
There are a lot of white Lakers fans who buy
get some
cars.
Get some headshots, Maxi Clay, but you can be next.
The Lakers fans who need to get their cars independently checked by a mechanic before they buy them. We're Lakers fans are apparently too trusting, I guess. Vic, there's you and I love movies. You especially. Yeah. You are a movie I love movies. You're like a movie aficionado. Like if you ever need somebody for your weekly trivia, highly recommend Andy. So particularly biopics are of interest to both of us, and like the best way to make them, which ones are best, and all that kind of stuff. We have strong opinions about that issue, independent of how exactly do you make a movie about Kobe Bryant. Because apparently it looks like, is it Warner Brothers is going to try to tackle that challenge?
Yeah, it's a movie that is in development reportedly with Warner Brothers. It's by the screenwriting team that wrote Air, which was the movie that Ben Affleck directed, him and Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, I believe Viola Davis, among others. Pretty good cast. And it was the story of Nike betting a lot within the company on making a then rookie Michael Jordan their guy before he played even an NBA game. The working title of the Kobe movie is reportedly With the Eighth Pick, and it's going to center around all of the machinations and high stakes metaphorical poker going on as Team Kobe and his then agent Arn Tellem, with an assist from Sonny Vaccaro, and the Lakers trying to steer Kobe towards the Lakers and ward off any other teams that might have been interested in him. And while it was back then really, really unconventional to draft a high school guard, it was pretty unconventional to take then players straight out of high school, but a guard was unheard of. And, you know, when Jerry West traded Vlade for the rights to Kobe, I remember at the time, I was like, wait, what? Like, you traded Vlade for a 17-year-old? Like, and most people were like that too. It was considered risky as hell, but there was one team that was, by all accounts, very, very interested in drafting Kobe. That was the Nets, and they had the 8th pick at the time. John Calipari was the coach that ultimately got too spooked by Team Kobe's strong messaging that if you draft him, he's going to stay in Italy.
I think like the idea of making a movie about Kobe is tremendously challenging for a bunch of reasons. The first is just he was around for a long time in the league. Like there was, with a lot of things going on, like there are a lot of eras of Kobe. It's not one, type thing. It's, comes in as the, the rookie that you're talking about comes in and, it's the pre-Phil and all that stuff that happens. There's the three-peat era. There's post-Shaq. There's the back-to-backs. Then there's the Achilles. Like there's too much Kobe to do it. Of all the different eras that you could focus on, I think it's really smart as a movie making thing and as a way to get to know a Kobe from a certain time period, to pick the era that they're picking, to look at this draft, to look at the context of bringing him into the league, which, like you say, was really interesting and unheard of in terms of the idea of drafting a guard and all the machinations that Jerry West went through to try to make sure that like nobody else is stealing the guy. And like all of this stuff, I think it makes a lot of sense from a movie making standpoint to focus there. Because at the very least, Andy, I would say you've got to pick one thing. I think trying to make a movie about Kobe, too much.
Yeah. We'll talk about this more after the break, but this focus, at least this approach, reportedly what it is going to avoid, I think, a lot of both biopic traps and sports movie traps, especially sports movies that revolve around actual athletes, in this case, an all-time great, which raises the level of a lot of what you're going to expect and demand. I think this approach is going to get around a fair amount of it in a smart way and explain what I think both of us believe coming up next. Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th, today, that is FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours on August 26th, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're predicting your MVP, a long shot division winner, or you're just ready to say, that's who is going to win the Super Bowl before week one even kicks off, this is your opportunity. Like MVP, I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson. I think the trophy is just going to go back and forth traveling between him and Josh Allen for a couple of years. CJ Stroud, though, if you believe in a third-year bounce back, interesting dark horse guy. And I think it's the year Buffalo finally breaks through and wins a Super Bowl. There's a Chris Rock joke about that going way, way back that just will illuminate how big a deal this would be. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now because Futures Day is one day only, again, August 26th. FanDuel, play your game.
We want to let people know as well. We have a request for our Locked On listeners. The Locked On Network wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts here on the network even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey, this is important, will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes, again, for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So thank you very much for doing that. Okay. You, like me, I think, dig this approach to where they're going to focus this Kobe film. It's not the only interesting moment in Kobe's life, but it is certainly a very solid way to approach it. You mentioned avoiding both sports biopic problems and biopic problems in general.
One of the big biopic traps is when you try to cover the entire scope of somebody's life. And there's just often, for people like Kobe who've just lived these incredibly rich lives of achievement with all these different twists and turns, and the things that would make you do a movie about somebody in the first place, there's just too much to cover. And when you end up trying to do everything, you end up in a lot of ways showing nothing. And I think this often happens in music biopics. You'll see scripts where it feels like it's written to essentially come up with a reason to play that one song, and then the next song, and then the next song. And like A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie with Timothée Chalamet that came out last year. I think a lot of the acting in it was really good, but the first half of the movie to me felt like the movie version of a jukebox. And the script basically just kept showing you Bob Dylan playing Blowing in the Wind, and then Bob Dylan playing this, and I'm like, dude, I can play one of his albums if I want to hear that. Like, I want to dig into his story. And to me, it felt like it took until almost the last half hour to really get you inside him.
It's mostly like, look at how good of an impression Chalamet can do.
And he was great.
He was great. But like doing Bob Dylan songs, it's like, I get it. I agree with you.
And then with sports biopics in particular, you often run into the problem of having guys be convincingly athletic in those performances. And other than boxing, which I think is just something that you can singularly train for, and B, most people don't really know what to look for with boxing. I think athletes or actors often struggle to look convincingly like that player. And in the case of Kobe, your basketball has to be pretty damn good to be convincing as Kobe. Focusing on this period, if I had to guess, is going to allow the filmmakers to show a minimal amount of basketball and still tell the story, which I think is really smart. Like in Air, they never actually showed MJ's face, I think, as a way of trying to suspend disbelief. You're not going to be able to get away with that, I think, in this movie. And it's going to be a casting challenge to find somebody to play Kobe. But, Winning Time managed to find a lot of really good unknowns to play icons like Magic and Bird and Kareem. But I feel like this approach, like in a lot of ways, it's almost like a caper movie. Like, you know what I mean?
It
like
really
you're trying to pull off a scheme, and, and you're not stealing anything, other than the Nets' soul, as it turned out. But in a lot of ways, it's like a behind the scenes caper film, and I think it could be really fun.
It's about something specific too, which I think matters. It's about a moment in time. It's about a slice of time in NBA history and what the league was like then, and how it was changing and all that. There's a lot that goes into this storytelling in this draft because it was so early in this wave of high schoolers and stuff like that. And so, I think one of the best biopics in terms of getting this right, in terms of like, how do you take a guy with so much history and make a movie about him, is Lincoln. Where they didn't, I'm not trying to compare Kobe to Abe Lincoln, but in terms of just like a lot of story to tell, you could do Lincoln's life. You can do all, like, what they did was a sliver of it, which is the passage of the 13th Amendment. And it's a brilliant movie if you've never seen it.
It's really good.
But it says you learn a lot about Lincoln. I think we'll learn more about Lincoln than we will about Kobe in this movie, because Lincoln is definitionally about Lincoln, whereas the movie about this draft maybe a little bit less about Kobe the kid as it is the surrounding atmosphere. But you also learn about America in this moment too. So like there's this larger context that frames it. So I think it will be an effective device for sort of introducing Kobe to, making a movie about Kobe that, quite frankly, then this is the other thing, avoids the hard stuff. Because if you make a movie about Kobe post Colorado, there's at least going to be some demand from people, criticism from people, that you're not dealing with something in there. And I'm not trying to relitigate that moment, but it is a very challenging one that, again, if we're all being honest, was sort of, with time, especially as Kobe became more accessible, became very obviously and purposely, like, a dedicated dad. We saw this side of him over the course of his life, and then obviously with his death. That portion of his life is often skipped over when people talk about it. I'm just being frank. So to avoid it in the telling of a movie, unless you're making a movie about it, is also a smart thing from a filmmaking standpoint.
The truth is, with Kobe, if you were looking to tell the story of his life, it would need to be a miniseries. It would need to be something like Winning Time, or a 10-episode show on FX or whatever. Like there's simply too much to tell in a 2 to 3 hour movie. You're not going to be able to do it in a way that doesn't feel convincingly, or that doesn't feel, it'll feel surface as opposed to convincing. And then, that's before you get into all of the other challenges that we've talked about in terms of controversies, in terms of trying to find somebody that both convincingly sounds like Kobe, looks like Kobe, can play like Kobe. Like then you have to start finding all of his teammates. Like,
here's the thing. I actually think finding people who can look kind of like Kobe on the floor is probably the easiest thing of those, only because so many young players still look at Kobe as an inspiration. Young, both players who, are old enough to have watched him play, but, people looking at YouTube highlights and all these, like, he's still a massive, like the like carrying yourself like.
But
Kobe
if you do
the
entire life, you got to find somebody who can both act.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it, like, ironically to me, like, that's probably, but basketball, of all the sports that you have to try to figure out how to shoot and make it look good, basketball is actually one of the hardest.
Basketball is extremely hard.
They did a pretty good job in Winning Time, but even with that, it's like,
look, the guy that I believe his name was Quincy Johnson, who played Magic. I mean, that guy nailed his performance. Solomon Hughes nailed it with Kareem. They both looked reasonably good on the court. Norm Nixon's son did actually, I thought, a really good job playing his dad. The guy they found to play Larry Bird, I don't know who the hell he was, but he was amazing. But again, this is hard stuff to do. The other thing I was thinking about, though, that could be maybe kind of fun would be a multiverse of sorts with this movie that merges Winning Time and Air. Like, for example, Jason Clarke played Jerry West in Winning Time. He was, I believe, 58 when he drafted Kobe. Jason Clarke is like 56 in real life. So chronologically, it works for him to keep playing Jerry West. Sonny Vaccaro was like, I believe, 57, 58, something like that, when he helped steer Kobe to the Lakers. He was helpful in that regard, and then ended up one of Kobe's guys. Matt Damon played Sonny Vaccaro in Air. Matt Damon's in his mid-50s. Like, this could work where you basically create like a Winning Time-averse or an Air-averse. Like, it becomes like the MCU, but instead of people in capes, we've got just people in sports. But you could theoretically expand these two universes or combine them, something like that, or it becomes Michael Keaton playing the same character in Jackie Brown and then Out of Sight, both Elmore Leonard novels, the movie versions of them. But you could bring those guys back.
It would work. I like this idea. I like it a lot. Leave us comments in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. Or you can tweet us at Cam Brothers on Twitter. They're focusing on the '96 draft. What Kobe slice would you want to see in a movie? I'm curious where people would put this moment in time compared to others. Would you want to see a Shaq versus Kobe three-peat movie? Do you want to see? Would you the moment of Colorado, coming back from the late stage Kobe with the Achilles and leading the team, into there? Like, which part of the Kobe era would you want to see in a movie?
Before we go, just dawned on me one thing that I also think about that's interesting about this focus, the draft story, is it's like the last moment before Kobe was Kobe. You know what I mean? Like before Kobe, because Kobe became a big deal very quickly.
Right away.
Like, it's kind of the last moment before this legend becomes like, he was obviously a high school phenom, but he wasn't yet a legend. It's kind of interesting.
And, the other thing we didn't talk about is it gives you an insight into a family dynamic, because remember, his parents had to co-sign his first contract. That would obviously turn in unfortunate directions as his life went on. So there's that dynamic too, in terms of storytelling, where what the outcome is, which is always an interesting place to be. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 36,000 subscribers. It's a lot of people. And so you can be one of them. Again, leave us questions, leave us comments, tell us which part of Kobe's life you would want to see in a biopic like this. We'll see everyone tomorrow.